Alright, let's start with a clip from the movie. The one about Quark's plan in order to infiltrate the Quartu base. Again, I like the fact that they got some of the stuff right, like Quark's doodles, to describe the plans.
Yeah.
It's the reason why I keep saying that the movie falls, when it comes to video game adaptation, into the mid category. It's not as disastrous as something like the Paul W. Sanderson Resident Evil movies, but it's nowhere near, the stuff like Sonic 3, for example.
Also, Ratchet decided to change out of his costume for this bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right. We kept in that plot point where Ratchet and Clank were at odds, even though that's not shown up in the
No,
game
not at all.
whatsoever. Whoops. Where are we dropping, bros?
Yeah, I remember this is the whimsy part, even though it's supposed to be instead something epic about the assault on Quartus base, but instead they make the whole, look, we're flying!
Honestly, like I'm pretty sure I mentioned during the movie commentary, the Ratchet and Clank movie is one of the more frustrating types. The type where you definitely can see the road to which it could have been
It's
great.
literally Sonic Forces. You can tell it's so close to achieving what it wants to do, but it trips and falls into the mud at the finish line, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. And look, I'm speaking as
Alright,
somebody who likes Sonic Forces. I treat Sonic Forces similar to the way I do the Wiz movie. I like both,
it's about
but I
racial
also acknowledge.
equality. What?
Okay, to be fair, the Wiz didn't have that kind of plot point, but okay, it's in a case where I enjoy both, but that's in spite of their flaws. Like, I like them, but I acknowledge that they both needed to be much better than what they actually turned out to be. And I do get why, in some cases, them being the way they were was, well, kind of the worst outcome.
Infinite is still a cool villain for me as well, and
yes.
still it should be savage in some capacity. Don't add me.
I
Anyway,
absolutely agree.
to get back on track, in order for this to be, an actual game, we are having a sequence where we need to get to the Quartu base first instead of just dropping there immediately. If you recall, in the movie, the Rangers arrive and they find the base almost deserted outside of the Zircon assault. But when Quark instead confronts Chairman Drek, that's when he gets, corrupted at that point. Instead, here it's properly organized like an actual assault. The downside from this is that, well, as you can see, it really isn't a recreation from the game. It's a complete original level. This also unfortunately means that we're not getting Giant Clank in this game. It's been so long since it's been so fucking long since we got sections with Giant Clank. Why are we bringing it back so long? I don't understand.
Okay. Yeah, I might as well bring up an issue that I have, and this is something that I think is independent of the movie or whatnot, but even in the game, it feels like their bigger priorities are, let's bring in stuff from the future series rather than remembering aspects from the original games. And yes, Giant Clank did technically show up in the future series, but he was definitely a lot more downplayed in the future series. Unless you count that
the
weird abomination thing he turns into during Q-Force. I still don't know. Well, okay, I mean, I do get what they were going for, a playable unit that has a similar hitbox, but come on, guys, that just looked awkward. But yeah, no, I think one of the big problems with this movie or video game is that they prioritize more so, let's bring forward future stuff. Like, again, look at the Galactic Rangers. You have someone who's a Tau in XP, but, no Sasha, no Skids, not even Helga or whatnot. And I get it. In 3, they were kind of a bit of a ragtag operation.
And to rescue a bunch of characters from the first game.
but why not still include them amongst the more experienced guys while you're at it, essentially? Like, again, aside from Quark, it kind of makes them the Galactic Rangers in name only. Like, at the very least, include Sasha, especially since the movie established that President Firenix is still a thing, so yeah, let his daughter be a thing.
In order to enter the base, here we added a sequence where you can send Clank, and because we use the same animation, we have concerned, slightly sad Ratchet as Clank is entering. These also...
Oh, I'm so worried for my body.
I'm concerned, Ratchet. This also allows a bit of the rivalry thing that I mentioned in the movie that has Clank going a bit against the robotic assistant that is helping Chairman Drek. In this game being voiced by which in this game is voiced by Sam Riegel because he couldn't get his DVA that the original the movie had.
Cool.
I guess he's supposed. We didn't really talk about it that much. I guess he's supposed to be a take on Lawrence because he's not in this. Remember, in the original continuity, Nefarious did have Lawrence even before it was roboticized, so it feels a bit weird.
I wonder if in the reboot timeline they were going to show us Nefarious creating Lawrence.
Possible. I mean, again, the teaser at the end with him going fucking bananas probably was, hinting that he was going to, be the classic, more like a classic supervillain, and maybe the plot of the second movie would have been, rather than taking inspiration from strictly to, have Nefarious build already the Bio-Obliterator, bridging the gaps, basically. Similar to all the Sonic movies, try to adapt Adventure 2, before anything else.
Okay, if I recall correctly, Nefarious' plan to turn everyone into robots, even in the original continuity, only happened after he himself
was
became
roboticized,
a robot, right?
yes.
Right, because before it was just typical take over the world stuff, essentially. So, okay, one thing we do here at the end of the movie is constant denial from Nefarious that he's not a robot, but the minute that he notices he is
just
one,
that's
when
insane.
he goes insane.
Yeah, last maniacally.
Which again, like I noticed, apparently part of his roboticization had to do with the Rhino of all things, which...
So weird.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. So you're telling me that the Rhino is the most devastating weapon, but if it backfires or its gun residue leaks out, it
would have
turns
helped.
you into a robot.
Again, maybe they were trying to, imply... Okay. They were trying to imply that the Rhino was going to function more like the Sheepinator as a, morphing weapon similar to the Bio-Obliterator, which would turn someone into a robot. But because, Nefarious never got the chance to fire the fucking thing, I'm left to guess.
That would be a weird change to the Rhino thing. I mean, don't get me wrong.
To be fair, the Rhino has been doing almost everything except morphing, its targets. It would have been just a case of, oh, that's what it does here.
I do wonder if the idea was to showcase this is why Nefarious is so badass and powerful, because the Rhino turned him to a one. Which, hey, interesting idea. It could have been that he could have been able to morph one of his arms into a Rhino as a result of that. Again, stuff that probably would have happened in a sequel and whatnot, which, of course, yeah, the movie does have that issue where it focuses on sequel baiting. Now, I guess if I can give the movie some credit, it doesn't feel like its entire MO is, oh, wait for this later movie to actually get what you want. No, to be fair, we do get...
It's not a surfing Dracula situation.
That being said, though, and I do get that, there were less scenes with Drek in the movie too, but one thing I've noticed about this game is, well, again, they're focusing much more strictly on Ratchet and Clank's perspective, which means we don't get any of the comedic or even somewhat threatening scenes with Drek that built him up as a bad guy you really wanted to take out in the original.
Especially because, again, compared to the game, movie Drek is a bit more bumbling idiot. Remember, there's the whole scene where Nefarious has to literally point at the screen multiple times to convince him to corrupt Quark, while in the original, he didn't seem to have any problem doing that. He was conniving on its own.
Again, I really do think this was executives thinking, guys, Nefarious is the most popular villain, so let's make it that he was responsible for the first plot. He was there all along.
I mean, to be fair, they tried to basically have the cake and eat it too by having the idea of Nefarious having the bus with the Quark. The family was still bullied, but in order to have the accident that was going to turn him into, into a robot, without having to pass off as too mean-spirited, because yes, even by the standard of humor of the original trilogy, Quark, being revealed to be the one that turned Nefarious into what he was, really did felt particularly mean for the character, especially with everything that we know about him already. So I get the idea they were trying to do something more graceful for a villain introduction, where Quark was still responsible, but it was more logical and less, mean-spirited as a result. I guess at least that's my guess. So.
I suppose, to his credit, even in the original game, while yes, he had bullied Nefarious before, nobody was forcing Nefarious to take that out on the world, essentially.
No, again, like I said, every one of us is responsible for their own action in reality and, in fiction. But my point is that, it was still the games trying to say that, oh, it's still Quark's fault at the end of the day.
I do wonder if, again, like we mentioned, the movie does try to sanitize a lot of stuff from the original series, making certain characters come off as better here and there. Like, again, one thing the movie did do was have Quark actually come to his senses, thankfully, and even let Ratchet take the glory for the win and whatnot in the end.
Well, yeah, that's also because the movie also skirts around his punishment. Quark only gets a demotion and a pat on the back, while this game, as I said multiple times, says, no, the motherfucker got arrested, as he should.
It's like I said, that's one of the movie's main problems. It tries to over-sanitize stuff. Oh, suddenly Ratchet's not much of a jerk and whatnot. He's a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed hero. Oh, what? Clank doesn't give as much snark. Now he's actually innocently naive, ignoring the fact that... Okay, the deal with Clank in the original game was he thought he knew what was best all the time, and while, yeah, he was morally in the right, he was kind of a slacker know-it-all in a sense here, in the sense that, oh, he talked smart, he acted smart, but he could be dumb as a sack of rocks at times.
Well, the sense of the game was literally born yesterday. That's what Insomniac was going for, the idea that he had a sense of right, but he was naive. Kind of like in a Pinocchio-like situation, and that's why Quark managed to get the upper hand of him and even Ratchet.
Pretty much. Again, like I mentioned, the problem with the movie, and by extension the game, is that, without us being able to really focus on those flaws as much, it does feel more uber-sanitized just so people can go, yay, good guys do right thing, bad guys go boom boom, and all that jazz.
I mean, to be fair, it's kind of an attitude that Sony hasn't particularly lost over time. Again, the whole infamous, not even hypocrisy, just, all over the place of morality that the recent God of War games have, with the whole discourse about, trying to solve things with words, but at the same time, because they're God of War games, on a gameplay level, being very satisfying with the violence.
I still think the most egregious example to this day is Last of Us 2. Killing is wrong, essentially, but your protagonist only realizes that when she literally has the one person she was trying to kill literally in her hands and just decides, nah, I don't want revenge anymore. Because she imagines the man who was killed by that woman, which does not make any sense.
Again, there's a whole thing that could be said about what that represents in relation to Neil Druckmann's ideals, but I don't wanna, get too provocative on that front, especially because, at the end of the day, despite being me, this is still overall a nice enough, tale for children, so let's not, poison that with it.
Hey, Chairman Drek. It said, calling for no reason, everything's fine. I totally not cowering inside a shipping crate or anything. In fact, I was just calling to assure you that there is nothing to worry about. Security is...
I forgot to draw
Nothing to
that.
see here, boss.
You know better the timing. Was this already at the time where Sam was actually fighting against his cancer? I forgot.
That may have been essentially. I know. Okay, he was still voicing Phoenix at the time, so if he was fighting his cancer, it was at a point where it wasn't as most noticeable, essentially. Let me see.
So yeah, in this version, the reason why the assistant managed to get captured and delayed before he could actually get on the safe ship with the Chairman Drek was because he was captured by Clank in this sequence.
That's a nice little.
It also gives Clank
there.
something to do, because in the movie, again, Clank did barely anything.
Which, again, that was so funny. Like, guys, you're making a movie based off of Ratchet and Clank, but you took the cue to have Ratchet and Clank be separated. Never mind the fact that that more often than not does not work.
Alright,
it's like if we
get this sequence from the movie, but unlike in the movie, they remembered to have Mark Groh voice Mr. Zircon. So, you know, this is the scene done right.
Beautiful. So when it comes to the vocal cancer and whatnot, he had been diagnosed with it earlier in the year 2024. He revealed that on July 2024. So,
okay, so
I'm guessing as
way
far as we
later.
all know, he was fine in 2016.
Okay.
If I recall correctly, I think he's still on the road to recovery, but he's
better.
back in the game
yes,
now, I think.
Yes, they did mention in non-critical role.
Yep, he, in fact, as of this year, he played the Game Master in Wildermont Wildlings and a character called Sinxin Age of Umbra.
Alright, again, unlike in the movie, the factory here is very much active, so you need to navigate around instead of finding it deserted.
He was also in Like a Dragon, the pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, and, oh, he was in Dispatch as Sweet Talker. Lovely. Yeah. Alright, so, what next?
Again, we need to navigate through the factory. And to give credit to Insomniac, they bothered to recreate areas from the movie almost to a T. The dedication put into that, these are not mind you copy-pasted assets from the movie. They had to just recreate the environment. So that's actually, you know, enough dedication with how they did it. Because the perimetry, yeah, that works out.
Yeah, again, coming back to this game, I can definitely appreciate a lot more of the details that went into it, essentially. I guess it is just telling that even though it's a perfectly fine game for kids, apparently that did not allow it to sell well enough for this project to carry on.
Hey, you know what could help? If both this and the actual previous games in the series were actually properly ported for stuff like PC, instead of, you know, just ripped apart. Because, again, I have to question Sony's strategy. Hey, let's give a port to only the last game in entry of the series, which, by the way, doesn't provide a decent enough recap of the past, mind you. It's a game, and it's a game that's relying a lot on previous events as callbacks, because it's all about alternate versions of existing characters. So, you know, let's make things more difficult for a potential new audience. Again, I've been saying it previously, why don't we just start with the classics section? Yes, you can make the argument, well, a PC audience can just emulate those, and yeah, I agree with that. But my point being, trying to release them in official capacity for the sake of trying to cater to this new audience that you're trying to clearly get.
And it's not even like you'd be cannibalizing your own audience. Like, trust me, anyone who's in the Sony fan base who wants Ratchet and Clank has probably already purchased Ratchet and Clank, so I don't think there'd be any problems with making it available on PC.
Not just that, these games have been released eons ago, so, you know, what kind of, you know, withholding of a market are you looking into potentially by not, you know, releasing it somewhere else? I don't
I
know.
legit wonder if
It
they're,
just
like,
feels odd to me that they're not taking advantage of what they have and instead occasionally have specific contracts like with Patapon 1 and 2 or everybody's a golf for Bandai Namco.
Don't worry, there are plenty more surprises ahead.
From what I can assess from Sony, it feels like a lot of their PC ports kind of come from a place of, okay, maybe desperation isn't the right word, but out of necessity, at least from their own perspective. Like, I noticed that the cycle seems to be, they take a long time to make a game, essentially, and while it comes out and can sell well, it doesn't quite sell enough to offset the cost, so that's when they then put up a PC port, essentially, to, I guess, help sales better and whatnot. Like,
It also
I do wonder if
depends. Some
Sony
games have a specific contract to be released on PC from day one, like, for example, Marvel Token is having that. I forgot if Helldivers 2 was supposed to have that, but a couple of the shooters are still, Ghost of Yotei, for example, is definitely getting a PC port along the line, which, it's more fine because that was also what happened with, Ghost of Tsushima, so there is a clear continuity with that. The same went with the Horizon games, because those were games that were properly released, for the newer generations of console, new IPs built. So it went smoother that way. But even, as I said, for stuff like the Uncharted games, you only get the collection that has 4 and the two girls game, I forgot the specific name, but not the original trilogy, which did receive a PS4 port, therefore it could be easily ported onto PC. God of War, only 2018 in Ragnarok, and not even say the remastered version of 3, which was also on PS4. Again, there's a clear lack of, consistency, it's all over the place.
I wonder if it's a pride issue on Sony's part, like, they're begrudgingly releasing these PC ports, but a part of them doesn't want to.
Possible. They might want to be like Nintendo, for example, they're jealous of that. It's so weird because they're still making a lot of money out of their releases, so we should be, if anything, they kind of should be glad that, they are not seeking as much as, say, Microsoft.
It's funny you mention Microsoft. That's part of my theory. There have been a ton of times where Sony have basically badmouthed Microsoft, saying, oh, we don't even really see them as true competition. So I wonder if part of the pride comes down to them having to do what they see as doing what Microsoft has basically surrendered themselves to, that being going semi-multi-plat. I say semi because they still have their exclusives, but little by little, Sony's exclusives are coming to PC officially, essentially, and I wonder if they just hate that idea because it makes them feel like, they're in a similar strait as Microsoft. Though I'll give Sony credit, they did not literally make a commercial that tried to claim that even a rogue ally is an Xbox when, no.
Your mom is an Xbox.
Oh, so everything's an Xbox. That means I'm an Xbox. My mom's an Xbox. My fridge is an Xbox.
But what is truly an Xbox? That's the real philosophical question.
They're probably more Xboxes than the actual Xbox.
Well, by all means, let's listen to the Xboxer. Jesus Christ, somebody wrote that trailer. The Xboxer, tell us all about it, sir.
Anyway, for now you need to defeat the specific warbots that are remaining. Again, in stark contrast with what you did in the movie, where they were just assaulted by a small Zurkon, and that was pretty much it. Oh yeah, they had the crossbow returning, the one that aims at weak points from a cracking time. Like I said, I never have been particularly fond of this weapon.
But yeah, no, I do have to agree with you, like, while it's a shame that we do miss out on some worlds from the original game because they're following the movie's plot, the fact that they recreated a lot of worlds and environments from basically the movie to this extent is admirable, essentially. And again, they do it in a way where it could be considered fun. And again, that's the... Ironically, the game is kind of frustrating in a similar way to the movie. Like, this game could have truly been incredible. Then the shortcomings come up, and again, if I were doing a Ratchet and Clank marathon, this would probably be one of the higher points, but it's also not something I'd really go out of my way to play, partly because it doesn't matter lore-wise, and at the end of the day, I probably would just rather stick with the original Ratchet and Clank game, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Enemies. Too many, really? Get out of here, enemies!
I'd say it's all in the past, but honestly, given that this is kind of still the penultimate game of the series, since after Rift Apart
Almost.
came out, we
Well,
still,
remember,
as
Job, in the meantime, we
Oh,
did
right,
we
the
did got a trailer
mobile
for a new
game.
mobile game, which is kind of a, you know, hero shooter, not hero shooter, but, you know, multiplayer focused, exclusively for mobile too, which honestly, I don't even mind it as a concept, but it has clearly the Metroid Prime Federation Force effect of the fandom is starving for a new game, and this is what you're prioritizing in release.
Mate.
You can all relax now. I'm finally here.
Alright,
We'll see.
in this version you get to fight Miss Zircon as a boss fight.
Goodbye, stupid.
She's a lot bigger than she was last time we saw her.
Okay, Pierce Brosnan.
You want to take this one?
Alright,
That's just my excuse for not being playable during this boss fight.
as a boss fight
Wait,
it's
they're
just...
gonna kill your wife?
Also, I find it cute that the Mr. Zircons come out of their pearl necklace and ornament. They're basically capsules that contain Mr. Zircon. As a boss
yeah,
fight,
still,
it's still Honey Ellis. As a boss fight, it's pretty cute actually because she uses the Zircons as a beehive shield, so you cannot just spam bullets all the time. The bouncer is just trivializing this a lot.
It is kind of a shame they don't have custom Zircon dialogue for this.
They
fight.
might have had, but let's just say that I leveled up my weapons just a bit too much for this.
I'm gonna go investigate.
Yeah,
that
fight's
office.
over.
Meet me there. Ratchet.
Again, it's still more cathartic than what the movie did, where not much happened, just a bunch of Zircons and then the characters try to apprehend Chairman Drek as he was escaping, because the entire point of this place was to focus on the scene where Quartu gets corrupted. Well, as you can imagine, again, if this is supposed to happen like in the movie, it's happening off screen. But remember, this is Quark telling the story. For all we know, he deliberately omitted the line on his own.
Would that mean he's our hero for creating a story that's more similar to the original game?
You'll be the judge to that.
Because, God, when you think about it, wouldn't that make the implication that the original story is all for Quark's vision and we were trapped in his dream and
Again, it's more
in a
of a
weird,
case.
twisted
Well,
bout of fate?
look at it in the same way of how Stranger of Paradise stands in relation to Final Fantasy I, where the idea is that Final Fantasy I is how the legend was told to people, but Stranger of Paradise is how it truly happened.
Can you take care of this lock?
Yes. Turns out the villain was actually the good guy. Where have I heard that before?
Well, to be fair, Jova, every villain is the hero of their own story.
Eh.
Also, in the meantime, the Emperor from 2 tried to take over a multidimensional base and got his ass kicked.
I was doing this for the betterment of society!
Sure.
You peons just didn't understand, that's why I had to kill you all!
Sure thing, David Bowie, sure thing.
He did look like David Bowie.
No, but I forgot if it was Yoshitaka Amano or Ramo Sakaguchi. Someone in the development team did specifically mention that the Emperor Designs was deliberately based on the Goblin King from Labyrinth.
That explains a lot.
I mean, you can tell that a lot of the aesthetics of 2 screams 80s fantasy, which is ironic considering the story definitely is an abridged retelling of the original Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah, which is funny, like, it's going for the aesthetic of Labyrinth, but it's blatantly going for the story of Star Wars.
Again, one of your early
Interesting
visuals is
snaps
literally blow up a big airship with a super weapon by tossing a magic torch into its engine.
Is that Final Fantasy
Japan.
12?
2, actually.
No,
Believe it or not,
Oh,
Kingsglaive referenced that, but anyway, another clip from the movie. Remember, this is where the character learned about the deplanetizer, and in this case, so do we, because we did not see the scene at the beginning. And yeah, we immediately cut to Chairman Drek and Victor escaping while leaving the assistant behind.
You're under arrest for your long-ass email.
See, and because in this case we did visit the Novali, so this actually has a more of a shock. However, we need to actually, get to the deplanetizer first, so that's what we're technically gonna do in the next part. For now, we just need to return to our airship and move on. But again, to mention again about recreation, they bothered to recreate the area of the small spaceship docks perfectly fine. So again, kudos to that. Yes, Jovan?
I wonder if this game will better deep dive into the horrors of innocent people being killed than the movie did.
That's what we're gonna see in the next part. So see you for that.
See you then.
Yeah.